The best answer I could give was it was the one thing I felt like I was good at.
On today's episode of the Deer Park Roundtable, I am joined by Deer Park Junior Senior High School Choir Director Matt Suddendorf. Sudds has served as both the band and choir directors in his time at Deer Park and has a unique understanding of how the community is so supportive of our programs.
We as teachers and as parents wouldn't be able to do that if the community and the administrators didn't make it the priority that it truly is to them.
Matt's story is also distinct in that he is a Deer Park parent of two daughters at the junior senior high school. He gets into the unique challenges of being a teacher and a dad at the same time.
They and the students are having a really great time with this new role that I get to play.
Sudds also follows a long line of military members in his family as a member of the Army National Guard. He takes some time to discuss how the loss of a job was the catalyst in pointing him in that direction.
I come from a very long line of military service in my family.
Matt is a ton of fun to talk to and has a truly unique story from start to finish. I had a great time with this interview, so let's get right into it. Welcome to the park, where the stories of our incredible staff and faculty go beyond the classroom. From their passions to their personal journeys, we're diving into what makes our Deer Park community truly unique. This podcast isn't just about their roles as educators, it's about who they are as individuals, the lives they lead, and the impact they make both inside and outside of school walls. This is the Deer Park Roundtable. Matt Suddendorf, welcome to the round table.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so if you've watched this show before, you know we start things off with nothing but the hard-hitting questions. That's
Absolutely.
the way it goes. Sudds. This isn't even a question. I'm super jealous of anybody who was born with a nickname built in for them.
That's very
Have you
true.
been called Sudds your entire life? Or
Almost. It really came about when I was in high school at your beloved Rocket
We'll
High.
get into that.
Right. And it was because in the band, we had 4 different folks named Matt, and each of us, tried to come up with something distinct.
Yeah.
And it sort of worked that, Sudds fits with the last name. My
born
dad was
with it.
Sudds before me, and now the girls that are over at the high school, they get called Sudds now and then. But yeah, built-in nickname. It was nice.
That's actually the first thing that I want to talk about because this is a cool, unique thing that you have going on.
Mm-hmm.
This year is the first year that you have 2 of your daughters in school here at Deer Park High School. Meredith came over a couple years ago now.
Sophomore year, right.
And so what's that transition been like, not just as a parent, as a teacher, kind of put it all together. And what's it been like for you?
It's something unique. And admittedly, when Meredith decided to come here her sophomore year, which was 2 years ago, she's a senior now. Lauren, of course, is a freshman.
Right.
We have a younger daughter, Natalie, who's in 7th grade at a different school, but is planning on coming here when the time is right for high school. But one of the things that I did was seek out some other teachers that have had their students here, and particularly Jeff Benjamin. I talked with him a little bit about it when Meredith was considering coming over here. And he sort of gave me a little bit of, fatherly advice since he's about a step ahead of me in the parent timeline, I would say. But it was interesting because as a music teacher, what I have the benefit of doing is teaching students oftentimes from when they begin in 6th grade into the music department, oftentimes to when they graduate. And because of that, I get to see them grow. All of a sudden, 3 years ago, when Meredith came here, it was all these familiar faces. You come in the first day after summer, they're taller, they look a little bit different, they're going through all their different phases of life. And then all of a sudden, my daughter is thrown in the mix there. Hi, Mr. Sudds, hi, Mr. Sudds, hi, Mr. Sudds, hey, Dad. And that one took a little while to get used to, but it became very, very natural because she fits so well into the music ensembles. Meredith in particular became involved with this meteoric rise that the varsity volleyball team has had over the past few years, and it's been a thrill to get to watch her be successful with that. And now this year with bringing Lauren in as a freshman, now that marching band's concluded, because Lauren was a part of that magnificent color guard that we have going on with the wonderful marching band. When that concluded, she came over and joined the same vocal ensemble in 7th Bell, the SA choir that Meredith had been in for the past few years now that the marching season's over. So I have 2 of them in there right now. And that was another layer of uniqueness. The other thing that's been a little bit interesting to get used to is not only are these my students, but they're also the girls' friends.
Yeah.
And so there's another layer that we have to, sometimes we have to draw a line and say
Yeah.
that's, we want to make sure that we're all proper and everything.
Yeah.
But it was something to get used to, because these are the people that are important to them as friends, but to me as students. So it's a little tricky to navigate sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
But they understand, and everybody understands the rules and the boundaries. And I think they and the students are having a really great time with this new role that I get to play.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Fun stuff. All right, I want to jump backwards. We'll get into all of your stuff in work, but like you alluded to before, and like I spoke with at length with Pat earlier this year,
Right.
We all attended McNicholas High School,
did.
not together. As I said to Pat, you guys are very much older than I am.
I'm older than he is.
And you're
too,
older than
so
he is.
I think I'm the elder statesman.
No,
now.
but I do think it's one thing. It's funny because there's 5 of us
Right.
at Deer Park in different various positions that went to McNick, which is pretty comical. But I do think there's something to that, of that education that was built for us. Maybe I'll speak for myself. Took it maybe a little bit for granted when it was there, but
Right.
not so much anymore.
Right.
But it's cool to be connected to people right away when you start. You or Miss King are the longest reigning Rocket High grads, but
right, yeah.
you guys have been here for a while now.
Right, and she supersedes me. She was
Okay.
one academic year before me, but then she's been here at the park longer than I have
Yeah.
too. So, but yeah.
To just talk about kind of your high school experience into your college experience. We'll get into your military in just a second,
Sure.
but high school experience and how it kind of shaped how you got here.
It is, without a doubt, probably the most necessary part of my formative years.
Yep.
I went to the same elementary school for first grade through 8th grade. And by the time I got to junior high, I started to get a little bit tired of it. 7th and 8th grade can be challenging
Yeah.
years, and for me, they were challenging, and I wasn't going down the path that I felt like I should be going down. I was very fortunate when I was in 7th grade. I had been playing trumpet for about a year and a half by that time. Wasn't a pro by any means, but I just had some experience. Well, the high school marching band in McNicholas only had one trumpet player that year. So they asked several folks to come from the elementary schools, which fed into McNicholas, and join the marching band.
Okay.
So I did that. Mrs. King did that as well. She was in 8th grade. I was in 7th grade. And so by the time I graduated from McNick, I had marched in marching band for 6 years by that time. So I tell everybody I marched, for 6 years in high school. I think, did you fail a couple of years? Like, no, it
What
wasn't
happened?
that. No, but it was a unique experience to get to do. And I know Mrs. King can speak to that as well. It was really something that set me down a much better path. And music, which I will credit to being the major driving force in my life, really started to take off at that point. I began to understand a little bit more. I understood the benefits of the discipline, the rewards, and, let's be honest, how to gracefully lose.
Yeah.
Because McNick was a competitive marching band as well, but we weren't really quite on the path that they were on when Mr. Bauer came along.
Yeah.
My group kind of, let's say, set it up, but then his group really took it to the
Yeah.
next level. Excellent directors, excellent students like him that really took the foundation and made it something really special. Not unlike what happened here at Deer Park when Mr. Vetter and Mr. Matre were in their younger years, taking a band that had the potential, finding it, and then taking on to the next level. So
Yeah.
I was able to be part of those formative years. And what that did for me personally was let me know that work ethic and drive and determination and really being passionate about something will take you to the next levels of success. And it really was what stepped me into the role that I am now,
Yeah.
helped me define who I am as a person, gave me a purpose, brought me to meet the love of my life when I went to music school at Miami University. My wife Kate and I met there, and music has just been that central figure, and that all started at McNick, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. So it seems like, and you can tell me if I'm wrong about this, but it seems like you knew pretty early in your life that this is what you were going to do. And we'll talk about kind of your transition from marching band to choir as well. But music clearly was what you were headed for from the beginning.
When folks ask me, why did you do that? Because it's natural to ask a person why they take a certain path in life. And at that point in my life, the best answer I could give was it was the one thing I felt like I was good at. A lot of people when they're in their younger teenage years, they're finding their place. They're trying to find a home. They're trying to find a safe place. And I see that in a lot of our students here. For me, that was the one thing I was good at, and I did it passionately, and I had the support of family, friends, and teachers to get the job done, and I think it served me pretty well since then.
Side note, real quick tangent here, but I think it's worth mentioning in our small little world that we live in that your wife also happens to be my middle school English teacher. So when I say much older, music, that's right, sorry, music teacher is what I meant to say.
Right.
So when I say much older, no.
You're not wrong. No, she's younger at heart than I am, so I give her credit for that.
She unfortunately she dealt with students like me most of her life, which were very untalented musicians.
That made her a teacher and a lady of great character. So thank you for all of those.
She learned patience with me. I can promise you that much. All right, let's jump ahead now because the next phase of your life was kind of getting into music, but also this kind of whole separate thing. And I had a chance to listen to you speak with the sixth graders during Veterans Day about how your military service started. And it wasn't the traditional path of a 18-year-old kid joining the military. Tell me about your story and how you got involved in the Army.
It actually came from let's call it a speed bump in my music teaching career. Okay. When I graduated from Miami University, my first job was at the assistant band director at Norwood High School. So again, paralleling Mr. Bauer, where he spent several more years than I did, but I was there and. Then I had the opportunity to earn my master's in music education at the College Conservatory of Music at CCM. While I was there, I also got to be an assistant director with the Bearcat Bands, travel with the football team, go to bowl games, all kinds of great things. And following that, I earned the position of head band director out of Little Miami High School. Okay. Unfortunately, I was only out there for 2 years because in 2009, there was an operating levy that failed to pass. And because of that, if I recall the number, it was 82.5 teaching positions had to be cut out of the district. Having only been there for 2 years, even though I was the head director, I was let go. I was riffed. And it really, sent us into a tailspin. Quite honestly, I didn't know if I was going to be teaching music ever again because when you are, at that time I was 29 years old. When you're that age and something that catastrophic happens to a career, you start looking at every single option that you have. I come from a very long line of military service in my family. There's a direct line, actually just in the Army itself, all the way back to World War I. My great-grandfather was in World War I, both my grandfathers in World War II, and then my dad, Larry, was both active duty and Army Reserve for 40 years, 1971 to 2011. And so I grew up around it, and it was something that was very, very important to me. When the riff happened at Little Miami and I lost my job, I had a long, hard talk with Kate, and Meredith had already been born, and Lauren was on the way. And I said, what do you think about me trying this? Because the question I asked myself was, and this might sound a little bit on the corny side, but it's truly what ran through my head. If I'm laying on my deathbed and I haven't done this level of service, would I be regretting it? And the answer was yes. Yeah. And so since I had, let's call it the time and the opportunity granted to me by Little Miami Reduction in Force, I said, I'm going to do this. Yeah. And so I got healthy and I started looking at my options, and I decided to go down the route that my dad had. And this is very strange because everybody knows me as a musician, but I went into the medical department of the Army. They offered me what was called a direct commission, which means by virtue of the fact I already had a master's degree, I had professional experience. They said you can start off as a second lieutenant, and after that point, I went off to basic training, officer training, and then was assigned to a unit. I had every intention of going active duty, and while I was in officer basic, typically there was an opportunity. I was signed up as a reservist, which means weekend, summertime, part-time for lack of a better term. Not to put too dull a point on it, but they said typically throughout that process, there's an opportunity to say, does anybody want to go active duty? I was planning on volunteering for that. Well, my job code was actually overstrength, and there was no opportunity for anybody to go active duty. So I finished my training and I came back home, and I still didn't have a full-time employment. So I started doing substitute teaching. I worked in special education over at Milford, but at the same time, I tried to put together as much military time as I could. I volunteered for everything that I could, additional duties, training missions, all of which took me away from home. But the whole reason why I volunteered from that, or for all of those things, is because I had the support of the family. Yeah. And so I had done that for about 3 years when the opportunity at Deer Park opened up, and I was very blessed to earn the opportunity to be the head band director when Mr. Matre retired, and Mr. Vetter decided to take over the assistant role at the high school and head junior high director. And so my first few years here at Deer Park, I was both the head band director and still serving as a reservist in the medical department. And that was an interesting challenge, to say the least. Notwithstanding the times when I would have to be away from home from several months, because like any reservist or National Guard member, you have to do that. That's part of it. Mobilizations, trainings, deployments, those are all things that we accept and do. But in addition to that, the very busy schedule of the head director of the marching band was also juxtaposed against the military schedule. So oftentimes from about August, when marching band really got started in earnest, and then November, when state would conclude, there would be months where I'd literally only have one day off. I would be, if I had a 3-day weekend with the Army, I'd be at the Army on Friday, come back for a Friday night football game, report to military duty Saturday morning. Mr. Vetter would warm up the marching band. I would drive to wherever they are at the competition, meet them in my uniform, run them through everything, send them back home, go home, try to sleep, wake up on Sunday, do it all again for the military, get back and do it on Monday, try to figure out what we need to do for the next competition. It was very exhausting.
Sounds fun.
But at the same time, it was again one of those things that truly made me who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very grateful that I had the opportunity to serve in that capacity.
Yeah, I have to think that something like that shapes you as a person.
Absolutely.
You figure out who you are in those times. And so you come in as the band director. You spent 3 years, 4 years?
No, actually 7 years.
7 years as the band.
director.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then it was 17 or 18 that you
It
made
would
this
be
switch.
2019, the start of the 19
okay.
academic year. Yeah.
So that you have the opportunity to move over to the choir position.
I did.
I would imagine it gives you a chance to breathe just a little bit. But more importantly, when you took on that choir position, I don't want to dismantle anything that happened before you, but the reality of the situation was there was only about 5 or 6 kids that were involved in the choir at that point. Things had just kind of fallen apart a little bit.
Right.
You take it on, and it's a building process.
It is.
Those first couple of years, you're just trying to recruit, just trying to get kids to show up.
Right.
It feels like you guys have found a place in this school at this point. And I think that's a credit to the work you've done. But just talk a little bit about that process of how do you get kids to show up for something that doesn't have kids?
Right. Everything you said is absolutely correct. When I took over, it was because my predecessor unfortunately left the district unexpectedly in February of 2019. I remember this. It was actually the day before my wife's birthday, so I had to spend her birthday the next day trying to help pick up the pieces of what was going on there. But that was when I decided that I needed to change because of that very busy schedule I just alluded to with military service and head band director. I decided to make a lateral move over and put my energies into rebuilding something that deserved to be rebuilt. The band definitely has the prestige attached to it. But if you look at the history of Deer Park schools, the entire music department has been strong for a very long time. All credit due to Margene Miller-Weiss, who built a program on par with what Mr. Matre and Mr. Vetter did with the band program. It was painful to see it fall apart. And it was simply because there had been a lot of turnover in the teachers. When you have a lack of consistency, the students won't trust it. I decided to make this move, feeling pretty confident that we would be able to get not only the number back up, but the quality of the program back up. When I took over, it was 2 ensembles in the high school, a couple in the junior high, and then assisting with the Amity Choir at the beginning level. And like you said, there was only 17 students to begin with. I just counted my roster yesterday. We now have 3 high school ensembles, full junior highs, full Amity Choir, the biggest one we've had in a while. And just in the high school, we're now up to 80 students enrolled in it. That has come with the cooperation and the help of the band folks. That has come with the cooperation and help of the administration. And most importantly, the families and the students. The students see that it is worth something caring about. They see that it is worth something putting their time and effort into. And the biggest goal has always been to provide a place where they feel comfortable doing something that's relatively challenging for a high schooler to do. In the band, you have an instrument that's going to create that sound for you. In the choir, that's your personal self. That's your body making the sound. And that is a difficult thing sometimes for high schoolers to do. The ones who have been with me the longest, I fully credit with establishing the expectation and the comfort level of being able to do this performance with confidence. And because of that trust that the students have gained, not only with me, but have provided to the younger members of the ensemble, we've finally been able to create something that is now growing year after year, and the quality is improving, the enrollment is improving, and the confidence of the students, which was always the most important thing, has really reached a level where they feel individually proud about being part of this program, which several years ago we didn't know if it was going to exist. Not only that, when Mr. Bauer came in to replace my position, and then I went over to the choir, shortly after that was the COVID shutdown here. We didn't know when we came back to school the next year, we couldn't teach music in a traditional sense. None of us could. So that was a unique thing. So the fact that both the band and the choir, particularly at the junior high and high school levels, have now been able to skyrocket, it just shows that the community and the students care so much about the history and the here and now of creating wonderful music together.
Yeah, you mentioned something there. You've mentioned it before, and it's how I actually want to end this, because I think it's important. You've been here long enough to really understand the fabric of this community. And so just close us out by just talking about what makes this place so special, from the students to the parents to the community. Why is this place different than anywhere else?
I've been blessed to be able to work at several different places. And over the course of my music teaching career, I've literally taught everything that I am certified to teach, kindergarten through college, strings, vocal, band. And I've been able to do it in different places that have sort of different vibes, let's say. I think it speaks to the quality of Deer Park, the staff, the families, and particularly the department that I'm very lucky to teach in, that I bring my own children here to get their education.
For sure.
They chose to come here because they grew up around this school. They grew up around this program. When it became time to decide where they were going to go for high school, we asked them a very simple question: what do you want out of this? And they said, we want a good traditional high school experience. And we gave them options. This is what they chose. And they chose it because of the quality of the community, the quality of the staff, the quality of the teachers, the quality of the administrators, the quality of the performing arts facilities that we have here. It's all so attractive. And we as teachers and as parents wouldn't be able to do that if the community and the administrators didn't make it the priority that it truly is to them. This place is extremely special. It's a little slice of Americana. It's as traditional as you can get, and it just feels like home. After spending all these years here, it's truly home. And that is what makes it so wonderful to come here every single day.
Good stuff, Sudds. All right. I'm going to close it out here. This has been a ton of fun. Always is. Great time talking to you. But you got a couple big weeks coming up.
Oh, we do.
So I'm going to let you. Have the floor for about 45 seconds here, and just talk about what you've got coming up. It's probably your biggest time of year, I would venture to say.
It's one of the biggest, yes. Outside from Parker's, this is a very busy time. Starting next week, the entire music department will be presenting all of our holiday concerts. On Tuesday night, we will be presenting the beginning band and the beginning choir, 6:30 p.m. at Crawford Auditorium. The following night will be our high school choir concert, starting at 7 o'clock, featuring the soprano alto choir, tenor bass choir, and the show choir, all performing holiday tunes. Thursday will be junior high choir and band, 7 o'clock for 7th grade, 8:15 for 8th grade. And then on Friday during the daytime, Mrs. Zoe Parker, the Amity music teacher, and I will be taking our magnificent 6th grade choir around to some retirement homes here in the community, spread some holiday cheer to some Deer Park residents who truly deserve a smile during this time of year. And then, of course, the week after that, when it's about time to wrap up, Mr. Bauer and Mr. Vetter will be presenting the high school band and jazz band. I believe it's 7 o'clock on Tuesday the 17th. And then one more Amity performance. Mrs. Parker, I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what date it is, but one more Amity holiday performance to wrap things up. So it's going to be a busy 70, 80-hour week for us. Yep. But we're looking forward to it because it's the payoff of all the hard work.
Yeah, that one's Thursday the 19th, I believe, just to get that one out there as well. The 4th graders and the kindergartners both perform. So, Sudds, this has been a blast. Enjoyed it. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. My here, pleasure. And good luck with everything coming up in the next couple weeks.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.